Hello everyone and welcome to my channel here, Breaking Digital Gridlock, which is a fintech channel based on my book, Breaking Digital Gridlock, which you can find at Amazon. Anyways, that's not what's going on today. My name's John Best. I'm the CEO of Best Innovation Group. I am an advisor for Hedera Hashgraph, which is a blockchain. Well, actually, it's a Hashgraph, and I've just done a lot of work in this space. So I thought it'd be helpful to quickly go through and set up Libra, and which is Facebook's announcement today about their cryptocurrency, which we've been hearing about for some time and how secretive it was. And I thought while I did that, I would also kind of give you my thoughts. So first things first is you got to find out a little bit about it. There's a lot of great articles. All you really have to do is go out to Google and just put, you know, Facebook space Libra space cryptocurrency, or even just Facebook and cryptocurrency. You can see there's a lot of good information here. Libra is independent, so Facebook doesn't own them, but you can see they're based in Geneva, which is interesting because today, apparently, we've already had some cease and desist orders from Congress. So moving fast. They've got a digital wallet from a company called Calibra, and then you buy the Libra from an authorized seller's site. Presumably, there's going to be some sort of KYC, I guess. Not sure how this is going to play out. I didn't see a lot of that. So that said, you can find your way to the developer site here, and this is where we're going to go ahead and set it up. And while we do that, I'll talk a little more technical about things, but kind of also some business ideas on what I'm seeing. Just kind of like if you looked at a car and you looked at the engine, you could kind of figure out if you knew something about engines, maybe what the how it's going to work or how it's going to be on the racetrack. So remember, they're not live yet. This is just a test net and how you get connected. So first off, I have a just a plain old Ubuntu Linux that I set up on my Docker, and I'm just running it here uh, easy enough on I connect to it via a website just to make it easy for myself. So first thing I'm going to do, and the first thing you probably should do, and anytime you start up a fresh version of it, is go ahead and update it. This is probably going to take a little bit, so I'm either going to fast forward it or I will switch over and we'll talk a little bit more about this while it gets going. So they give you a real quick jump start here. They're talking about you go in and you clone Libra, which turns out to be open source. So if we go here to this website, we should see the actual GitHub for it. Let's look. Sure enough, here it is. There's a repository out here for it, the website, and then the actual application. Um, it talks about the Libra core being a prototype and how this is going to change. But in theory, this is the open source piece of it where you can look at all the code. And so if you're interested in that sort of thing, here's where you go. Meantime, we'll see if this is finished. It is. So now we're going to go into our first step. And one of the things I always do is they're going to ask you to do this git. What git means is it's a way to clone this repository in here. So you need to install git if you don't have it, if you're starting from scratch like I am. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that and tell it yes and let it go through and install git. A lot of people come in and they just try to copy these commands and they don't understand why it doesn't work. Maybe if you're new to Linux or something like that. But here you go. It's putting in Git, which allows you to basically grab these repositories and pull them in and put them into your system. So now that that's done, now we're ready to actually download this thing and get started. So the first thing is they gave you a nice way to just copy. All you got to do is click here. In my little piece here, because I'm running it in the website, I can't just directly paste it. So I got to go in here, do a quick paste. Once I do that, then I can actually run the command, which I will do, and it's cloning it into the Libra account. So right off the bat, that worked, and here I am. I'm in Libra. Here's their application. That's how long it took to bring it up or to download it. Wasn't very long. You can see there's a Libra node, there's a swarm, there's probably a little image here that, and most importantly, the scripts area, which is what they're going to have us do next. Now that we've done that, did I just see Clippy? I did. There you go. So now that they've done that, I'm going to hop over here and I'm going to grab this next thing. Now, theoretically, I don't think this is going to work. I ran into a problem and I'm going to show you how to get by it, but I'm going to go ahead and start here. Whoops. I just tried to reclone it, and that's not going to work out. So got to remember to put it in my little paste bin here. So let me do that. Pop it in here, and now I can just pop it in and send it off. First thing that's going to happen is it's going to pull all of this down, and as you can see, it's going through it. It wants to know if I want to install these dependencies, and I'm going to say yes, I do. By the way, if you put a capital Y in, which most installs want to prove that you're looking at it, it'll actually fail. But here we go. So it's downloading the installer and Rust. So it's basically pulling down all of the things it thinks it needs to start off this platform. And it's showing me how long it's going to take. I'm just scrolling up a little so you can see it a little better here. Probably even move it out a little bit more. I'm pretty sure when it's done here, it's going to have a problem with a piece of the software called Proto-C. We'll see here in a minute. But as you can see, it's installing a lot of stuff. There's a lot of open source software that's used in this particular platform out in GitHub. So it's got a lot of extra stuff in it, including this Rust C piece. So you just have to let it do its thing. Okay, so here's the error that I got before. You can see that it's this proto version's too old, update to 3.60, and unfortunately this isn't necessarily trivial. However, I did find a really good place to do it. And again, I'll put all these links out there. So my issue is that there's a piece of software on here that it needs to run, this proto buffer compiler that for whatever reason came in as 3.0, and it needs to be 3.60 or above. So the good news is that there's somebody out here who kind of gave the way to do it. So here's a nice way to install it. The challenge is that we've got to go in and set it up real fast. So first step is to go out here and find the latest version, which I just did. So we're going to pull it down for the Linux platform for the 64-bit, which is what I'm running. I'm going to copy this link address. And then I'm going to go back here. This is Sofian Hade. So thank you, sir, or ma'am, I can't tell there, sir, for helping out here. So he gives a way to sort of fix this, but this one's too old, so we can't use it. So we're going to do curl. That means go out and basically pull a URL in and load it. So we're going to go into our platform here. We're going to do a delete that. We're going to drop in this, and then we're going to drop in this URL that we wanted from the 64-bit, which is right here. I'm just going to copy that link address, go back here, and paste it in. Now we have it pulling in the latest one of these as a zip file. So let's just go over here, hit paste, and it's basically just going to download this whole thing into its own directory, which is, or pardon me, into this Libra file, which is totally okay. Don't worry about that. Now we've got to unzip it. The unzip is pretty straightforward, but just in case, we'll take a look. So here it's telling us unzip, but guess what? We don't have unzip, so we're going to have to install that. It also isn't this file. It's a file we just put in. So let's do that. We're going to go in and do a sudo, whoops. We're going to go in and turn off that. We're going to do a sudo apt get install unzip. Let it do its thing and get unzip. Fantastic. Now we're going to say unzip, and we know that it's the proto, so we can just hit tab. That gets us to the rest. We're going to say create a directory, and I'm just going to call it proto-C. Actually, I'll make it 1 just in case it collides with something. Boom, it put all that information in there. You can see it's all here. It gave us the bin files, the Google, so everything's in place. Challenge is that I'm still on the wrong version, right? So if I just check the version of this particular product, it still says 3.0. That's because I need to copy or I have to move some of these files into the actual system here, which this person actually wonderfully told us what to do. And so all I really have to do is move this into here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll just copy this to make it quick. So paste it in. In this case, it's actually for me going to just be proto because of where I am. So if I do that, do this, paste it in, hit enter, Whoops, did not find it. Oh, it's because I called it Proto C1. So let's fix that. Done. We're going to do the same thing for the includes so that you can have all the different things it likes to talk about. So we'll go ahead and do that. Just going to go over here, hit paste, and change that to a 1 because, like we said, that's where it is in mine. And hit enter. Oh, that's good. And then just for good measure, let's go ahead and just change the ownership of this particular file, which is proto, and we're just going to make it that it's owned by root. You would necessarily always do this from a security perspective, but then again, whoops, it's ch user bin. It's proto C. All right, then I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to do it for the whole directory. So it's root -r. Actually, it's -r root. -r root. And I'm going to do it for the include directory, just in case you're wondering where that comes from. That's right here, and I'm going to go out to the Google directories because Google actually made this protocol buffer piece here. So user local include Google. Let's just go ahead and do that. So we're going to have user local include Google, and that's done. Now, in order to make this work, unfortunately, if you watch, it's going to say, hey, John, when I check my version, it's not going to be the new version. The reason that is because I basically need to restart. So I'm going to do that real fast. It's pretty quick. So I'll just pause the video real fast. And well, that's restarting. We're going to jump into this next piece here. So after we get this reinstalled and get the proto done, we're going to have to start this CLI testnet. CLI standing for Command Line Interface. Testnet is a very common term for distributed ledgers or blockchains where there's a testnet where people they go and they connect to it, and you can test, so you can make money without actually having money on the platform. There's a lot to it that you can do. So we'll kind of go over, but it actually is going to take a little bit when we get to that point. But in the meantime, let's see if we're back up, and we are, so that didn't take long at all. Let's go and get back into our terminal, and let's just check our version. Good, we're now where we need to be. So let's log in or get back into Libra, and now we're ready to run the actually we need to run this again because it had a problem. So let's just go ahead and rerun the install. By the way, I tried it where I actually got Proto on there first, and for whatever reason, it wasn't a big fan of it. So you kind of have to go through this twice, but it's good because it recognizes when things are already installed, and it doesn't try to go back through them. So it's not like you're gonna spend too much time. It's just gonna say all this is installed. So there you go. It says it's ready to go. Now we're ready to actually run the testnet, which is the real exciting part. So let's go in here, and we're just gonna bring it up, hit paste, and let's watch her go. So initially, it's going to immediately start creating all kinds of indexes. I'm going to, again, fast forward the video during this part. All right, so we've completed the install, and as you can see, you've got a terminal up and running. This is known as the CLI, the command line interface for this particular platform. And now if you're going here, they would say, hey, let's do our first transaction. So here they go through the install again. Once you get up and running, now they say, let's create some accounts. So it's pretty simple to create an account in here. You literally just type account, create. And so it created an account, and it says that it retrieved account 0, and it gave us this big long number, which is the representation of the account, and this is the index. And it actually is going to want us to create 2 accounts. So let's create 2 because I want to be able to move them back and forth. And then now if we wanted to know what we have in terms of accounts, we can do an account list. They also have these little monikers where you can just type A or Q, so shorten the commands. So you can see we have user account index 0 starts with 6DB. User account index 1 starts with 1F4. All right, next they're going to want to, we just kind of browsed through this. We created these 2, and we did the list. Now they're going to say, let's mint some coins. And notice it says mint and not transfer. So you're minting coins. And I thought that was an interesting term to use uh, because it also means that they can probably be burned or exposed, deleted as well or removed. So anyways, let's go back to it. We'll mint the coins like they asked. So it's just basically saying for account 0, let's mint 110 coins, and they're calling that Alice. So account 0, mint 110 coins. Whoops, account, I think it's mint. There we go. No, it's minting coins, and notice it says mint request submitted. What that means is this is an asynchronous call. It means that the account itself is still, could be, take some time to do this, theoretically, I guess, if we weren't in a test, it might take some time to create that. They're going to have us do the same thing for what they're calling Bob's account, which is, this one. I believe they have us do 50. It really doesn't matter. So I'll do 50. And now it's going to mint those. And so we've created the first two here. Now it says let's do a balance. And so you're using this query command, and we're going to do a balance on one of the accounts. So let's do a balance on 0. We should have 110. Let's do a balance on 1. We should have 50. And we do. Boom. All right. So next step is we're going to create a transaction. But before we do, they want to see the sequence number. They want to understand how this changes the sequence number of each account. So we're going to query the sequence number for each one and see where we are. Theoretically, we should get 2 zeros. So let's take a look. So Q sequence 0. And we got that. Let's do 1. Yep, we're sitting at 0 for both accounts. So it's what to be expected. Now it's saying, hey, let's do a transfer. To do that, we say transfer, and we transfer from 0 to 1. So that's Alice to Bob, and it wants us to transfer 10 accounts, or 10 of the gas, or whatever they're calling this here. So we're going to go ahead and do that. 0 to 1, and we'll do 10 of these. Done. And you can see the query transaction status. And in this case, it's probably complete. But here they're telling us, hey, if we wanted to see how things are going, we could check the sequence number of each one of these. But I'm pretty sure if we do a quick look, we're going to find out that, these are both already happened. And so let's look up the balance. I'm trying to remember what it was. The balance query, sorry. So let's look at 0. If we minus out 50, we should be at 60. Oh, no, I only did 10. So we're at 100. Let's look at 1, and it now has 60. Pretty simple stuff. Nothing magical about that. But now it says, hey, if you wanted to do this where it was blocking, and what that means is this transfer B. There's also a mint B. That means that it's basically synchronous. It's just going to sit and wait until it's been come back. So it says it right here. We'll submit the transaction and return to the client prop only after the transaction has been committed to the blockchain. This means that you're going to be basically blocking until it comes back. So in this case, they're going to have us check the sequence number after a transfer. I'm not going to do the transfer B. So let's do query sequence number 0, I believe. So 0 is 1 now. Theoretically, this should be 0 still because we did a transfer from one to the other. Let's check it. So when we check it, yep, the sequence number is 1, indicates that one transaction has been sent from Alice Kupar, and 0 for Bob's indicates that no transaction has been sent. Every transaction sent, you get it incremented by 1. So really, that's the whole gig here. You can see how they put it together, what they did, and they give you a little bit more about the transfer command. One thing you can do is you can actually do this query transaction here, which I, thought was interesting. So we can really see what happened on the blockchain. We can see the committed transaction and the sequence numbers. So if we do a Q, I think it's TXN underscore sequence, if I'm right. Let's see, TXN account sequence 00 true. Okay, so it's Q TXN sequence. There you go. So there's the actual contract data and the information about that. You can see the event. There's our 6DB account. And if we look here, our 1F4 account is there. We can see the events and what happened as a historical event in the platform. You can also query actual events. So if you wanted to see what events were out there, you can do a query event 0, sent 0 through 10. So you're getting all the events with proofs. So query event, there it goes. So there's all the transactions and I pull back the first 10. You can see the account slate, the account state with proof. If you look in here, you'll find the 06DB account. There it is. And if we look a little further, we'll find basically the Merkle tree, how it laid out. Here's the proof. So all the things you would expect of a normal blockchain. And anyways, that's about it. Just a couple things that I noticed as I was looking on this. I promised a few things. One, the fact that there's a transaction B makes me feel like that there's definitely some blocking that will go on. It's similar to Bitcoin. I don't know how fast. It feels like it's more of a lightning node. Also, if you look in the glossary, there were a couple things that were interesting to me. One, when they talk about gas, you really get a feel for sort of what the monetization process is. So if I scroll here, the pay for the computation and storage on the blockchain network, all transactions cost a certain amount of gas. So my wonder is, what does this look like in terms of if I were to transfer $100? What does that really mean? The gas price, it is willing to pay. So the price of gas for a transaction, so you would say, hey, this is what I want to pay. Hot stuff here is the name of their Byzantine consensus protocol. So the other thing here is that it appears this is a leader-based permission or network. Leader-based protocols, they must agree on the leader to make progress. And that also, works with the current round number. Theoretically, leader-based protocols are a little scary because, and it looks like they've done something to try to deal with that here. But if you know which one the leader is, which is hard to guess because it changes every round, but you would attack that leader to prevent it from, to bring the system down. And then finally, they talk about the type of platform this is, permission versus permissionless. And I think this was important here. Libra starts as a permission system. And if you go up here, only the nodes chosen by a single are allowed to join the committee. It's a permission system. And so in this case, I believe that what they're saying is the Libra community, which we know makes up a lot of different people. If we go look here, I think in here they talk about all the different people that are part of it, or at least in one of these. You've got MasterCard, you've got PayPal, you've got Visa. You have a lot of different people who are part of this that they are all sort of permissioned. And what that means is that us as normal people, we couldn't really run sort of a miner. There's no there's no way we can get involved. However, we go back to it, it says it will transition to permissionless. Not sure what that means. That's very interesting to me. So it appears to me too that based on a little further down, there's a way to see the state of the entire platform. We haven't gotten into smart contracts. I'll try to figure out that later. This is just first impressions. But when I look at it a little further down, you can find how much backing there is in the entire platform. In other words, how much money there is out there. And so it basically, lets you know, hey, this is the maximum that's available, or the amount. Yeah, there it is, the Libra reserve, the total monetary holdings that back Libra is a requirement to invest in the reserve. So if you're going to be a validator, then you've got to put money in. What that means, I don't know, but it definitely relates to the permissioned. So just something to consider. And hope you liked this video. If you did, please subscribe. I'll probably do some more like this down the road. And hope this helps somebody get up and running with it and get past that problem that I ran into. Thanks again.